Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Survivor Talks with Mike. Today we will be kicking off our coverage of Survivor Season 42. If you're new to the channel, I do weekly podcast style coverage of seasons of Survivor, so if that's something that you enjoy, please subscribe to catch all the latest videos. With that all said, let's start our recap and review of the premiere. This episode starts with Jeff introducing the season and talking about last season's new changes and saying some of those twists will carry over into this season, such as the idol activation phrases, and there will be some new twists made specifically for this season. He also says that because they film back to back, none of these castaways know what happened during season 41. The players arrive in boats. Our first confession is from Jonathan. He says that he's excited to try and win the ultimate challenge. Drea is next to talk, and she says that she was half blind and an athlete, but she might be too much for others and will have to rein that in. Then Omar talks, comparing himself to birds like a pigeon and an owl. Lydia then talks about being young and inexperienced and uncomfortable in the outdoors. Daniel has been trying to get on the show forever. Maria is looking to find something in herself out there. Lindsay wants to see her own potential. Hai is prepared for any twist. Mike wants to give everything he's got for his one shot. Marianne compares it to a roller coaster, and they are now on the ride. They all get to the beach. Jeff welcomes them, talks about everyone being safe from COVID. He points out Marianne's smile. She struggles to contain her excitement. He then goes to Mike. He says you have to be diverse and well-rounded to win. Zach tries to give a cool line about finding out how to win. It doesn't go over so well. Jeff says the game is like a monster in a horror movie. He then introduces the tribes Taku Orange, Vati Green, and Ika Blue. We go straight into the first challenge for their camp supplies. First, one person from each tribe has to run and find 2 paddles that are tied to a cargo net. Jonathan goes for Taku, Daniel for Vati, and Tori for Ika. Jonathan is first back and followed right behind by Tori. Daniel is a little later and falls hard and dislocates his shoulder. The next portion, another person has to run out and get 2 more paddles. Lindsay runs out for Taku, followed by Drea for Ika and Hai for Vati. When they get to the paddles, there is a twist where they each have to agree to take this advantage together. They all agree. So to cover up their lie, they're given mud and fake blood to put all over themselves. Lindsay comes back first, followed by Drea and Hai. They then have to paddle out in a boat to get bamboo sticks. Taku is way out ahead of the others and gets their sticks and back way before anyone else. But Maria struggles on the last part, and the other tribes are all able to catch up, with Roxroy getting the win for Ika. The medical team then comes out to check on Daniel's shoulder. They pop it right back in easily, but they say it's at risk of popping out again. Over at the Ika camp, Zach says he's a super fan, knows a lot about the show, but doesn't know last season, obviously. Everyone introduces themselves. Tori says that she's a caregiver, but she's actually a therapist, but she doesn't want anyone to know. We'll see her lie a few times throughout this episode. Over at the Vati camp, they get to do the Savvy or Sweat challenge to get their camp supplies. They changed it this season to make the sweat worse by being only one person and the Savvy easier by getting 2 guesses. They go with Savvy. Jenny is the only person who really seems to initially understand the puzzle, though. At the Taku tribe, they've also gone with Savvy. And after Jonathan says that he only can count 11 puzzles or triangles, and Omar says he's already up to 36, they decide some of them should just go and start working on the camp, since they're not going to be any help on the puzzle. Both tribes do get it correct and receive their supplies. We get introduced more to Mike, who was a firefighter, and he says he wants people to look past his tough exterior and see that he truly is more of a softie. At the Ika tribe, Roxroy is taking a strong leader role. He talks about being a stay-at-home dad and doting over his kids, and he'll have a tough time not approaching his tribe mates in the same way as he does his kids. The three that got the advantages in the challenge all go off to read what they have gotten. It's an amulet which has to be played with all the other ones, but becomes more powerful with less of them in the game. So on one hand, it gives them an incentive to work together, but on the other hand, it gives them an even stronger incentive to get the others out. At night, at the Taku camp, Jackson shares that he had applied for Survivor 10 years ago, but as a woman, meaning that he has since transitioned. He says that it was hard on his family and he stopped seeing them for a while, but his mother got sick, so he moved back home to help out. And while his mother's passing was hard on him, it did bring him closer to his father. At the Vati camp, they are splitting into pairs, Lydia and Hai, Mike and Jenny, and that leaves Daniel and Chanel. We then get some of Daniel's background about going through leukemia when he was a kid. At the Ika camp, Roxroy, Romeo, and Drea are already in an alliance, but now Zach is trying to make an alliance with Romeo. He's very excited about this alliance as they're the two skinny super fans. Tori goes off looking for an idol, but she tells everyone that she was looking for tarot, and nobody buys it. And then she even tries to tell the audience that she was only looking for food, even though she's already told us that she was actually looking for an idol. The Shipwheel Island has returned from the previous season. Each tribe has to send someone. Taku sends Marianne, Vati sends Jenny, and Ika sends Drea. Marianne and Drea each risk their votes while Jenny protects hers. They don't spend as much time on it this season, but we do get a confessional from Marianne talking about being a little bit weird and wanting to showcase that you can be weird and it's okay. It was very similar to JD in last season, though I think Marianne is maybe a little bit more mature than JD was. Back at Taku, Jackson was feeling dizzy, so they want to keep an eye on him staying hydrated. Jeff then shows up to their camp. He says he wants to have a one-on-one conversation with Jackson. They talk about his health situation that Jackson hid until the last couple of days. He says he started taking lithium to help him sleep when he was going through the stress of his mother passing. He was hoping to be off of it by the time he was out there, but was unable to. Jeff says due to the effects of stress and starvation and dehydration on lithium, he will not be able to stay. Jackson becomes the first person out of the game. I just want to add that I think Jeff did a really great job of approaching this situation delicately and not revealing too much without Jackson saying it himself. So my thoughts on Jackson as a player are that he made a great impact just from his 2 days on Survivor. I think he made great representation for the transgender community, and it's unfortunate he had to be removed so early. And it's too bad that spot wasn't able to be used for someone else, but I am glad that we got his short time on the show. Back to the show, we go to the immunity challenge where the other tribes see that Jackson is now gone. Jeff tells them that they will have the shot in the dark again this season for at Tribal Council. During the challenge, Taku and Vati get through the physical part of it fairly well, while Ika struggles. And then on the puzzle, Marianne and Omar solve it first for Taku. Vati has Jenny and Daniel doing theirs, and they come in second. During the puzzle for Ika, Zach and Swati have a tough time, and Zach ends up putting the blame on himself, but I thought from watching it that it looked like he realized what was wrong with their puzzle, and it was something that Swati had put in there, but he still put the blame on himself in the end. Back at their camp, Tori says she doesn't have an idol, even though everyone knew she was looking for it. She takes Drea aside to talk, and they talk about getting out Roxroy because he didn't pull his weight physically. Drea talks to Romeo about it, but he doesn't think that's a good idea. He wants to go for Tori, but everyone else thinks that they should go for Zach. At Tribal Council, Jeff lets Zach say the fire represents your lifeline. They then talk about how tough it's been so far. Swati says she would get rid of her pinky to not be at tribal council. Zach says he knows it's either him or Tori, and he doesn't trust Tori anymore. They go to vote, and Zach plays his shot in the dark. We see that Drea did actually get her extra vote from Shipwheel Island. Zach's shot in the dark doesn't work, and he's not safe, and thus he becomes the first person voted out unanimously. My thoughts on Zach: he was a little neurotic and paranoid, and he likely brought his vote out upon himself. I think no matter what configuration of players, he would always be on the chopping block early, and due to his paranoia, he would probably get himself voted out. It doesn't make him a bad person, and he actually seemed really nice out there. He just isn't very well suited for Survivor, I think. My review for this episode: I would say it was a great premiere. I think they gave us everything we needed. Some players, obviously, we haven't gotten too much from yet, but they weren't important to the story of this episode. Jackson being pulled was heartbreaking, but Jeff handled that perfectly. And I think Jackson should have his head held high for how composed he was. He went out on good terms as far as I'm concerned. They also showed us enough to know exactly why Zach was voted out unanimously. I like that they didn't spend too much time on the twists like Shipwheel Island, and we understand already and didn't need to know any more about it. Episode 1, I give a score of 8.5 out of 10. So predictions for going forward. I'm not going to read too much into the editing yet. Last season, most of the players they focused on early were out early, and the winner wasn't really even shown until halfway through the season. So it's tough to say whether they would do a similar edit or if they learned from last season. As far as the players go, I think that the Taku tribe will be tough to beat in challenges, so they should be fairly safe. I also think that the Vati tribe is the most well-rounded, and while they may go to tribal occasionally, they should more often beat the Ika tribe. I think coming out of episode 1, Drea looks good for having advantages, and Romeo seems to be well integrated in the tribe. I think all the other three in Ika are at risk, but mainly Tori and Roxroy, who each had their name come up. And I don't think the others think too highly of them. And Tori is already playing way too hard, lying when she doesn't need to be. For Vati, Jenny really showcased her strength in puzzles, which will be good for her early on, but it may also put a target on her back. I think for them, Daniel is the one at most risk of being voted out due to his shoulder and having a great story, which can be seen as making him a sympathy vote for the jury down the line. On Taku, I think Omar looked great so far, and while Jonathan should be safe in the pre-merge, I don't see any way that he ends up winning because he'll be seen as way too big of a target in the post-merge. And they should be able to get him out because I don't think he's very good at puzzles, so he should lose an immunity on one of those. That's all I got for now on my predictions. I don't want to make too strong or bold of one. If I had to guess a winner right now, I think maybe I'd put it on high. He seems to be somewhere in the middle, which seemed to be good for last season, where you're not too obvious of a vote out early on, but not also going to be a huge target in the post-merge. But it's obviously way too early to tell now. So thank you for watching. If you liked it, please hit like. If you want to see more, please subscribe, and just keep coming back.